NFL media insider friend who had a very funny tweet today when we tweeted out who's on today's show. He said, which one of these doesn't belong? You belong, Ian Rapoport. Don't sell yourself short now, Ian.
No, I definitely don't. So this must be some sort of like company mandated appearance. You got Hanks.
Yeah.
You got Def Leppard.
Yes.
You got Saberhagen.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm here to present the Mets side of this. Saberhagen is clearly going to provide. I guess he could provide both sides.
Yeah,
but he's clearly going to be on the Royals side today.
No, well, I mean, because he says that two of his kids were born in Kansas City, so he's sort of, I guess, Facebooked out to all of the Met fans saying, sorry, I'm going to be on the Kansas City side of these things, which is totally understandable. And you're a Met fan too, right, Ian? You're locked in on this?
I am. It's the only team. It's the only team I root for. The only team I've taken with me for the 5 different states I've lived in over the last 10 years.
Oh man! At Rap Sheet here on the Rich Eisen Show. So Cam Wake's done for the year, right?
Yeah, he's done for the year. I mean, he's undergoing an MRI right now, but they know it's a torn Achilles, and he's due a lot of money next year. Not a lot guaranteed. It's fair to wonder if this is the last time that he'll wear a Dolphins uniform. But I was talking to a GM earlier this morning who kind of pointed out the horribleness of what the Dolphins just went through. So they won 2 games, blew out 2 teams. Dan Campbell was the king of the world. And then they go to New England on national TV, 2 national TV stations, not just one. They lose by 40, and their best player is done for the season. Their entire world changed in 24 hours. It's really cruel.
Well, New England could do that to you. I mean, that's essentially what they could do to you.
Yeah.
Is just turn your world upside down. And the question is who's going to go ahead and take them out? And if you looked at the schedule this year where you would point to teams that might have been able to do it, Dallas in Week 4 was one of the teams that could have done it, or Week 5. And instead, they had no Romo or Dez. When do you think those 2 guys can come back for Dallas, Ian?
Well, Romo's still got a couple more weeks. He's going to start practicing this coming week, and then he'll have 2 more weeks, and then he'll be activated. And, when he's back, the expectation is he'll really be back. Dez is more of a curiosity. I'm obviously, we're hearing a lot of optimism from Dallas about whether or not he's going to play. We were hearing the same thing last week before he was declared out. I know he's practicing. I know he's very happy about it, but he still hasn't done the full workload of things he needs to do to show he's healthy. He still has pain in his foot. They're going to give him a little special shoe with padding. It's going to look like a pillow, I'm sure. But, this is also a training staff that's very prudent. And so I know all the football people want to make sure he's on the field. I know the training staff wants to make sure he doesn't re-injure it. A lot of people pulling Dez Bryant in different directions. And, of course, he wants to play like crazy. But very complicated situation there just about his availability for this week.
And was the mention by Stephen and Jerry Jones that Greg Hardy is up in line for a long-term contract, was that part of the whole circling the wagons and backing his play or the rest of everybody's play, that this was a spirited player in the wrong place at the wrong time, showing his spirit on the sideline last week? Or do they truly intend to give him a long-term contract, Ian?
Well, the Cowboys, as you know, are some of the best businessmen, pure businessmen in the NFL. So what they did was they saw a situation. Hardy's a great player. I don't think there's any debate about that. I mean, we saw what he did to Tom Brady the first week after calling him out publicly. They see a situation where they can get a great player at a great deal. They can sign him up to a long-term deal with not a lot guaranteed. They can make him earn it on the field. They can get one of the best pass rushers in the NFL at a very reasonable figure without a lot of risk. For a lot of teams, they'd shy away from the negative publicity. We know the Cowboys don't care. So it's actually, I hate to say this, but it's actually a really good business opportunity, and they seized on it in public right away.
And so why don't you think the Cowboys care, Ian? Why don't you think they care about what's being said of them or about them and the optics of it all? Why?
Well, because this is what Jerry Jones has done. He has built this brand to be bulletproof, which it is. They've gone through so much just as an organization while winning, and they've shown in the past that you can have guys do bad things off the field and still come through on the field and still be the best brand in the NFL and still have the best stadium and so many things that I just don't think they care about what we say as long as we're having this conversation publicly, which just like we are right now,
Ian Rapoport joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Speaking of public conversations, there were town halls held by the NFL in 3 towns that may lose their football teams to the Los Angeles market. As we are currently sitting here on the eve of Halloween and 2 days before the first November football game gets played in 2015, where does everything stand on the LA movement?
Well, it really stands where it was, which is three cities trying like crazy. I guess really it's 2 cities because Oakland is sort of lost, but really 2 cities trying like crazy to keep their football teams. And St. Louis, it looks like the city has the best chance, although we've seen kind of cracks in the armor or whatever the cracks in the whatever the phrase is.
Yes.
We've seen that, some debates about what's public money, what isn't. San Diego has a long way to go. I mean, basically we're still where it would be a surprise if all 3 teams didn't file for relocation, which is sort of expected. Of course, they have to, which the NFL has said publicly. And then it's really just what are the 32 owners going to decide when they get all in a room together. There's a meeting of the LA committee in 2 weeks, I believe, and hopefully we'll have some more answers then, but it's still really nowhere.
So in 2 weeks, somebody's going to come out of a room and say there's white smoke, or they're going to continue to meet. At some point, where there's going to have to be some resolution this year, right, Ian? Wouldn't you think?
It has to be resolution this year on something. And, I would expect there to be. Now, there are teams that can file, can do 1-year leases. The Raiders certainly can do a 1 or 2 year lease to buy them time. Maybe wait till the other 2 teams get settled so they can be like the belle of the ball, so they can have people fighting over the Raiders. The Chargers could certainly do a short-term lease in San Diego just to give the city more time. And then, but I really think with the Rams situation, that probably has the best chance to be resolved this year, one way or the other. I mean, I think it's clear they have the most advanced chances of getting to LA just based on their project, the money, the land, so many things.
So it is possible that the Chargers and Raiders stay put, but in short term before they figure out if they're coming to Los Angeles or going to backfill in any of the cities that might be left vacant by teams that move to Los Angeles. Is that what you're saying, Ian?
Yeah, that is one option with the Raiders. The Raiders potentially going to St. Louis. It's maybe not the best option, but it is an option. I think the real debate, if the Rams in fact move, the real debate would be could you have one team move a couple years after another, or would that create an imbalance? Jerry Jones has said that'd be fine. Just have one team move, then a couple years later another team. Other almost as powerful owners have said that's not fine. That it needs to be 2 teams at once or not at all. So the owners aren't even in lockstep about when or how many teams could move at all, let alone which teams actually could move. You know what I mean?
Sure. Did you hear I mentioned to Jim Mora in his usual Tuesday spot here on the Rich Eisen Show about your report? Did you hear that, Ian?
I saw the links on Twitter. I saw. Did he say rap sheet or did he just say Ian?
Well, no. Here, I mentioned that you on NFL Game Day Morning mentioned him along with Kevin Sumlin and Brian Kelly as college coaches that would be interested in returning to the NFL. And here was his response.
I didn't hear it. Yeah. Did they say that I was interested or they were interested?
No, that you
very big.
Yes, he mentioned you, Brian Kelly, and Kevin Sumlin as interested if Dor.
Yeah, I don't know where Ian got his information. I haven't talked to Ian. But you know how those guys are. Sometimes they just make stuff up and throw it out there and see if it sticks.
Mm-hmm. I did say that you don't make stuff up, Ian.
Oh, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
What was very interesting about his response, and first of all, he's great, so I definitely don't want to get into a thing, and he's got recruiting to worry about. But what's interesting about his response, it was lacking one small thing, a denial. Never in there did he say the report was wrong. He simply said a couple generalities and mentioned the team he was trying to play. It's just, words are very important, and one thing he didn't say was that's not true.
Well, there's going to be a ton of college openings this year, and are there any NFL head coaches you think that would be interested in jumping and doing what Jim Harbaugh did for any of these spots, do you think, Ian?
Yeah, and the 2 names that get discussed. I mean, one we've talked about on game day morning, which is Sean Payton and the USC job. He's got a daughter living who goes to Pepperdine. USC is basically like a pro job, just in its popularity, how big it is. I mean, that's not even a step down. That's like Nick Saban going to Alabama. It's basically an NFL job. So I think that'd be one interesting one. But here's another one that's worth considering. You know, we talked about Chuck Pagano's potential status in Indy.
Mm-hmm.
The Miami job is open.
Yep.
He is a Miami guy. We know that. We'd be curious to see what would happen if the Colts made a move in the coming weeks, which, you know, there's no indication that they're going to do, but it's all up in the air. That'd be an interesting one for him. That job's already open.
Is that really possible? I know the Colts have a very rough stretch coming up with Carolina, Denver, and Atlanta back to back to back with a bye week right in between. Would they really go ahead and show Chuck Pagano the door in the middle of a season in which they're still in first place despite being 500 or below? Would they really do that?
They don't want to. They are not planning to. They hope they don't have to. I mean, all these things you're hearing, but then the caveat is always, but it's up to Jim Irsay, and it's really hard to read. They definitely don't want to. But, you know, as I was talking about with another executive earlier this morning, you know, don't discount the public. What if the Colts get embarrassed on Monday Night Football this week? That's like 3 losses. So all of these factors, these very real human factors, play into this. No, they don't want to do it. They don't plan to do it. They plan to evaluate him at the end of the season, and that has been everything I'm told. But I'm also told we don't know with Jim Irsay. That's just reality.
Last question: does Joseph Randle play this weekend? Do you think?
He's not playing this weekend. He's not at the Cowboys facility today. Mm-hmm. We know he's got the injury. We know he's got the NFL stuff. We know he's got the personal stuff that he's dealing with. It does not sound like football is the number one worry for those involving Joseph Randle right now, and I think that's probably the way it should be.
What about Manziel? What's going on with him? Is he going to start for Cleveland, you think, Sunday? Against Arizona?
I don't know about playing status. I know the NFL is not expected to stop him. He's not expected to be disciplined for that roadside incident involving his girlfriend and that whole thing. It sounds like they're pretty confident that McCown is going to be able to go, but today will be a little more telling.
All right, Ian. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Good luck to your Mets.
Thanks, Rich.
That's Ian Rapoport, NFL Media.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.